get your divinity degree, Joe? You are suppressing other Christians? You are deciding who's Christian enough for you?
Clearly, these communists have no desire for the Christians to be represented.
Sunday Christians talk the talk, but don't walk the walk.
God of light in many different forms. We are divided and broken, and we cannot mend ourselves.
That's just a collection of public comments in Ottawa County where often it comes back to a firm foundation, faith and the Bible, a deeply religious collection of communities. Almost half the people there attend church, according to the 2020 U.S. Religion Census. But concrete convictions for some are problematic politics for others. And Ottawa Impact, with its swift conservative takeover of the county commission, brought out these differences in the past year between people who say they believe in the same God. Fox 17's Sam Lantra talked to pastor and a professor trying to understand the politics and the pews. Sam.
Yeah, that's right. In Ottawa County, two things have been a near constant: Christianity and conservatism, as dependable as the waves at Holland State Park. But the culture war seems to push certain topics to the surface: LGBTQ rights, parental choice, and public health. These politics not only separating Republican from Democrat, but Christian from Christian.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
A new era in Ottawa County. The first meeting after the newly elected commission fired its administrator, demoted its health officer, and dismantled the diversity department.
I'm proud of you folks. I pray for you again. Our folks do. So let's go to the Lord now as we open the meeting today.
Public comment lasting for hours that night. And Bart Spencer begins with the prayer.
Ottawa County has been the signal county. We may be a bit biased, Father, but the signal county of this state.
The pastor of Lighthouse Baptist Church, Spencer made a name for himself during the pandemic, telling people to catch COVID and get it over with.
And so what I preach from up here, I'm going to preach it. And again, I'm not mad at anybody, because there has to be an avant-garde somewhere in the growing secular culture of moving further and further away from Christianity.
The combination of faith and conservative politics Spencer takes to the pulpit he sees in Ottawa Impact. Its commissioners sign a contract referencing America's Judeo-Christian heritage, an exceptional nation blessed by God.
Jesus is Lord over Ottawa County.
Jesus is Lord over Ottawa County.
Again.
Last summer, the Ottawa County Republican Party passed a resolution declaring 2023 the year of the Bible, recognizing a national need to study and apply the teaching of the Holy Scriptures.
Likewise, the authority that you preside over has been delegated to you by Christ.
Faith, family, and freedom. A rhetoric that resonated, with some elevating these commissioners to a biblical status, comparing criticism of them to the mocking of Noah before the flood.
Though the world laughs, keep serving God, keep trusting Jesus, keep pursuing the truth, keep reaching the lost, keep sharing what is happening around us.
And it's bewildering, and it's incredibly disruptive to our civil society.
Dr. Kristen Kobes-Dumais is a history professor at Calvin University. In her recent book, Jesus and John Wayne, she scrutinized white evangelicals and masculinity, two characteristics she says are common in Christian nationalism.
And very generally, it means the idea that America was founded as a Christian nation and that it should be defended as such. The idea then is that if you get the country back on track and align the country with God's laws, with your understanding of God's laws, then God will bless this country.
But the term means different things to different people. It's a spectrum, she says.
Trying to figure out if Christian nationalism is a threat to democracy, if we really should be talking about Christo-fascism, for example, or if it's just a harmless expression of God and country patriotism is really tricky.
The former, according to the professor, is a real problem and can look like
anti-immigration, denial of racism, higher levels of comfort with voter suppression, higher levels of comfort with political violence, anti-LGBTQ legislation.
On its website, Ottawa Impact calls accusations of Christian nationalism simply the latest sleight of terms and defamation, and a national strategy applied to a stronghold of conservative thought.
So am I a Christian nationalist? By definition, yes. I believe everybody ought to be a Christian in the whole world, not just America, and I believe America ought to come first.
Spencer says the label has been manipulated to villainize Republicans who vote their values.
but define your terms, and you're not going to intimidate me with your name calling. Though we're to be the best of citizens as Christians, we're also not doormats. We have a responsibility to just stand up and hold the government accountable.
Let's talk about faith. What would Jesus have done? He told us to feed the poor.
In September, people of faith again filled the Ottawa County boardroom, pleading with commissioners not to cut from the budget, a food program.
You state your purpose is one to align with the Word of God, yet your actions betray this every single time.
For Pastor Gordon Wiersma, a desire to see affordable housing and diversity led him further into politics.
We talk about doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly with God. That's from Micah 6:8. Those are touchstones for us.
The pastor at Hope Church in Holland, he joined the Ottawa Coalition of Unifying Christians in response to Ottawa Impact.
And we felt it was very important that there be a different voice in Ottawa County that expressed a different Christian perspective.
In total, 39 pastors and 450 plus people have signed on. The coalition doesn't endorse political candidates, rejects Christian nationalism, and supports policies that benefit all our neighbors.
This has really been a wake-up call, I think, for a number of churches, maybe more moderate or progressive churches, to realize we do need to be more intentionally involved in the political realm.
It reminds me of Gandhi's comments when he said, "I like your Jesus. I do not like your Christians."
Thank you for returning Ottawa County back to God. There's a huge revival coming like no one has ever seen before.
Back in the January boardroom, discord continues to have its day. Pastor Spencer doesn't see it as broken.
There's a deep divide in Ottawa County and the nation. Do you find that problematic? I said, absolutely not. What's the first thing God did in creation? He divided light from darkness. That's the first thing he did. We need to point out wrong, and that sometimes is abrasive in a ever softening secular culture.
Dr. Dumais thinks common ground can still be found somewhere between here and heaven.
Local politics were often about getting the roads paved, building the parks, the libraries, and things like that, and really members across the community coming together to get things done. But with this culture wars framing, we've seen that now through the media, through social media, really change the nature of local politics too, so that it's turning citizen against citizen. There is so much space within a democratic system to live your values and to live according to the dictates of your faith.
Now, these values, these voices certainly do not represent all Christians in Ottawa County, but it's the start of a conversation. And two key players absent from the discussion are Ottawa Impact and the County Republican Party. In the process of putting together this story, I reached out to all 6 Ottawa Impact commissioners, as well as the county's GOP chair and vice chair. They did not agree to be interviewed. For now, in studio, Sam Lanstra, Fox 17 News.